Hi there, this is Robin Curtis, and I played Lieutenant Savick in Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. You are listening to the Sci-Fi Diner, and stay tuned.
Sci-fi fans, we are privileged tonight to be talking with one of the stars from Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, and Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, Miss Robin Curtis, who played Lieutenant Savick. Miss Curtis. IMDb resume is an impressive list of sci-fi, popular comedy, and drama genre shows and movies. Today, if you're looking for a home in the upstate New York area, Miss Curtis can help, and she is a highly recommended realtor. Miss Curtis, welcome and thank you for your time to talk with us on the Sci-Fi Diner podcast.
You are too generous, guys, too generous.
Not at all.
Yes.
Very good, very
Well,
good.
well, The Voyage Home is my favorite Star Trek movie.
Absolutely.
I think it might be mine too, Chrissy. I really do. Even though I couldn't, go to the party, I loved the film. I loved the film. I thought it sort of returned to that magical Star Trek formula.
It really is just chef's kiss. So you got your start on the stage and doing musical theater, which I love because I did musical theater in high school. So have you ever gone back to the stage?
Oh, that's a good question. I have in the last, oh gosh, maybe 25 years, but it was to perform a one-woman performance piece that I had written, very autobiographical, very personal, so it was a huge divergence from my musical theater past, and would contradict what I would tell you now, which is that typically I don't feel comfortable on a stage without the music. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
You come from musical theater, you know what I'm talking about. The orchestra strikes up, and there's the intro, and you must make your entrance, and suddenly you inhabit the character. I find. I mean, that's how it worked for me. The music is what inspired me, to walk and talk like that particular character. And without it, I always felt like I was very conscious of my body. Do you know that sensation, guys? Like it's like, oh my God, what is my right arm doing? Suddenly everything felt like it was an appendage that didn't belong to me on my body. So anyway, I went off on a tangent there for a second, but I did love musical theater so very much. And I grew up, I had a mom who was very musical, and I had a very dynamic music theater teacher in high school. And I think that's what planted all those marvelous seeds in me. And these days I love to sing in a good choir.
Oh,
Good.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Good.
Do you enjoy going to the live theater?
I do very, 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 very much. Oh my God. This weekend I'm going to the city, and I'm going to see
Nice.
Oh
What are you
Mary.
seeing?
I'm going to see Oh Mary, which I've already seen, but it was so gosh darn funny. If you guys are anywhere near New York City, it's on Broadway now. It went from the Lucille Lord Theater in the Village to Broadway. It's hilarious. It's an inspired comedy that riffs off of Mary Todd Lincoln, and it's you almost can't catch a breath. You laugh so hard throughout the entire show. And what else am I going to see? I'm going to see Sean Colvin perform at the City Winery, and I was just there a little over a month ago, and I saw a dream of mine, Renee Fleming in The Hours at the Metropolitan Opera. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm a big fan of theater.
Well,
Awesome.
if you're in Lancaster County, we do have some really good theaters that you should definitely go. If you want to see an absolute spectacle, you should go to a Sight and Sound performance.
It's
It
called
is
Sight
like
and Sound.
it is
Yeah.
like no theater you've ever experienced. They have live animals. It like the stage moves. Like if you're a theater person, you need to go to it. I promise you, you will not regret
Oh,
sitting through it.
you've got me sold. I'm there. I'm there.
Yes.
These
Yeah,
two
you
guys
have
used to work
to.
there.
Oh yeah, I did.
Awesome.
That's where
I
Scott
used
met
I
his
used
wife.
I used to work with the animals, running them on and off stage and the props at one time. And Miles, what did you do? You were backstage, right?
Stage crew.
The stage crew. So
Mhm.
Cool.
Yes, I was in the pit orchestra in high school, so you have a musical crew here.
Oh my God, what did you play?
So
I played the violin.
Lovely.
There
I
we
was
go, there we
also
go.
in the marching band and the choir, and I was the music
Me
child.
too. Me too. I was in the oboe in the band, and then I would have to, because you couldn't march with a reeded instrument, double reeded instrument. I played the glockenspiel. I mean,
Wow.
crazy, crazy.
Wow. Well, I was
No,
just
I'm
saying,
just
with all these, with all this talent here, we should maybe do a musical episode of Sci-Fi Diner.
Yes, we'll sing the whole thing.
Right.
well.
I
Now,
know the
did you just
perfect
say
opening song.
Oh
did you just say
no.
Lancaster, Pennsylvania?
What was that?
Did you mention Lancaster, Pennsylvania?
Yes.
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 Well. This is where shore leave is going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. So I might
Yeah.
actually get to extend my time there and see what it is you're talking about, this sight and sound.
You
Right.
have
Right.
to.
Yeah.
You will
Absolutely.
regret
If
it
you
if you
can, if you
don't.
can.
Cool.
So,
It's only
yeah.
a couple miles from the
Yeah. From the host.
Wyndham Resort
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
the shore leaves at.
You got it.
Yes.
You got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all of us Star Trek fans know your work in Star Trek 3. And this opportunity getting to talk to you also just gave us yet another reason to go back and watch it again.
Oh,
Like we needed another one. But after seeing the difference between your portrayal of Savick and Christy Alley's, there were a lot of similarities between both portrayals, but one thing we noticed was yours was more cerebral and much less emotional that we could pick out. Was that your take on the character, or was this more direction?
well, I admit it was very much direction, but it was my preference to be that actor who just put her hands in put herself in the hands of the King Vulcan. I mean, like who was I to come into the franchise and go, well, this is what I think a Vulcan woman should do and say. So I shook Mr. Nimoy's hand the first day of work, and I said, you seem to think I know what I'm doing, but I really don't. And he said, Robin, I'll take you every step of the way. And so when people comment on, the subtle differences, or perhaps some of the more obvious differences between the two portrayals, I have to remind them, I think it's very much a collaboration between the artist and the director for sure. And obviously, Nicholas Meyer and Kirsty kind of went to the edges of the emotion and the flirtation, and they brought some nuances to the character that Leonard Nimoy would have no part of. Do you know what I mean? Like he didn't want me to breathe in the wrong place. As much as I tried to inject, that little layer of emotion, it wasn't happening. He wasn't having it. Mm-mm.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Was that
rewatched.
an animal that I just saw climbing under? I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
It was Gemini coming to say hi to me. He's upset because Orion's on my lap and he can't sit on my lap at the same time that Orion's on my lap. I tried pulling him and he was having none of it.
I just want to make sure you weren't being mauled.
No,
Right.
I'm
Well,
fine.
fair enough. Fair enough. Miles.
I had rewatched Star Trek 3 this week. I'm a huge proponent of the film. I think the film does a tremendous job of world building Star Trek moving forward. I like that it takes our characters in maybe some dark places and sees how they're going to deal with it.
Right.
But and I love the scenes with you and Merritt Butrick. I noticed that in your role as Savick, one of the things you were meant to do is to get David Marcus to come clean and confess about what he did in regard to Genesis. Did you and Mr. Nimoy and Mr. Buttrick discuss how this dialogue was going to go and how this was going to look like on the screen?
Well, Miles, Walter Koenig gave me great advice back then. He said, keep a diary. And had I kept a diary, I might have a juicy answer for you right now. But I don't know. I don't know that there was a lot of discussion amongst the three of us. The way Leonard worked with me was that he would take me aside before every scene, and we would sit, somewhere on the edge of the soundstage, away from other people, and he'd say, "Okay," he'd say, "Let me hear it," and I would literally do the lines with him, and he moderated me or modulated me, if you will, rather like the volume on or the sound, bass, a little more bass, a little less treble, etc. And I, another actor might have been offended by that, but I wasn't the least bit offended by that because I was actually hungry for him to do that with me. I had a huge insecurity about the Vulcan, everything about the Vulcan mystique. Really, I'm not a particularly wry human being. I'm very effusive in my expression, and I gesticulate a lot, and so it was like it near about killed me just to sit still for the film, for the character. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh my God. And he would tell me, I want you to go home and do the lines in a mirror and try not to move your face. It's like, I mean, these basic, simple things. It just made me feel almost claustrophobic's not the right word, but like I couldn't move. Uh, uh, and so, with regard to that scene, Miles, I just know that there was a great deal of gravity and brevity there, and he very much wanted that, but yet I couldn't go over the top with it. I couldn't, he didn't want me to show upset so much as just a bafflement as to why he would risk so much and
Right.
and do something so uh, wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there you go, Tiger. Yeah, for that one.
Well, as someone who's talks with their hands is very uh,
Yeah.
that had to be an immense acting challenge for you to be able
Oh,
to now be told no emotion. That
yeah.
had to be a huge challenge for you.
Yeah. No, I sincerely thought I was going to get the pink slip for the first 2 weeks at least. I thought that. I did. I really did. I thought, oh, they're going to look at the dailies. Oh, and they're going to see that I am not pulling this off. I am not pulling this off. But, somehow between his gentle direction and encouragement, I guess we can say we got there.
Oh, you
Oh,
definitely
you
got there.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, I had a lot of fun recently. You're making me think about uh, over the years. I've run into the Spocks, so to speak, and certainly Stephen Manley has been out there for a bit. The young man that I did the tender scene in the cave with, the Ponfar scene. But more recently, I was reunited with Vaj Potenza, who played Spock for all of like 6 seconds in the film, as he was aging, and he is just a great guy. Oh my goodness, and holds the memories of that experience with such fondness and respect, and he's an editor. He's in our biz, right? And he lives in Connecticut and he works in the city often, but there's also great studios in Stanford where he lives. And My point is just, it was a great crew. It was a great
Right.
group, both the
Right.
actors and the people behind the scenes. So there was a lot of support there, and a lot of encouragement. And Merritt was particularly lovely. I'm glad you mentioned him,
Yeah.
because he was certainly, that the kind of actor that wanted to make you feel safe and let you know that he had your back,
Mhm.
kind of actor. And you're always grateful for someone like that.
I just want to pay homage to your scenes with him and just what that part your role and his role in moving the story.
Thank you. Very, very kind of you. And here's to Merritt,
Mhm.
a big loss at the time. You know, he died just a couple of years later.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
So you get to work with Nimoy, right? This is
Mhm.
fantastic in its own right. How familiar were you before coming on to do the Star Trek movies? Were you with the franchise? Were you even with what a Vulcan was? Like how'd that go? And then to meet the, penultimate Vulcan himself, right? But
Yeah,
but I guess talk about a little bit your background maybe in Star Trek and in science fiction.
sure. Well, you know, I was growing up in the 60s, and when the show came on the air, I was 9, 10 years old, and we watched it. Our family watched it. My older brother, you know, by 2 years, loved the show. You could say he's a trekker, and unlike me, at least he understood. Kevin understood, you know, the allegory and the messages that Gene Roddenberry was trying to tell, the stories. You know, me, I was all enthralled with the women and Kirk, and sometimes Nimoy, but most often Kirk. Do you know? It just seemed like every episode was, you know, at some point it was going to be about him and his attraction to some, you know, big-breasted woman, you know, in a tight, short miniskirt and boots or something, you know.
Right.
And so I thought the show was very sexy, you know, and I was just coming of age, so I was, you know, all these raging hormones, prepubescent, and I used to drool, literally drool at some of the, you know, it was very erotic, the show, you ask me. You know, people
Yeah.
not saying what their bodies were doing, not, you know, telling us, you know, this magnetism between the characters. When Spock is alone in the cave with Mariette Hartley, oh, you know, I just think that's one of the sexiest things going. And this decision he's got to make. Does he stay? Does he go? And I'm there in my living room going, stay with her. You know, not understanding that would be the end of the show, you know.
Right, right,
Anyway, I had a very short memory, you know.
right.
But yes, no, I had watched the show. I knew that it was very popular. I don't think I did, guys, though. I did not understand the ramifications going forward. I did not understand that if I should be so lucky as to be embraced into the franchise, that it would be a part of my life, you know, and I'd be sitting here with you all 40 years
Right,
later. That
right,
that was a shocker,
right.
a real shocker. Yeah.
Wow. And
Yeah.
it's not the first time you've this wasn't your one and only dabble in the franchise. You came back in the Next Generation crew for a two-part episode.
Yes. Thank God. You know, the no, I mean, the people at the conventions would ask me, you know, when are you going to be on the Next Generation? Like it was just a matter of me letting somebody know I was interested. And it couldn't have been further from the truth. You know, I had to go and audition over at Paramount just like everybody else in town, all the other actresses. And if I walked into those rooms, guys, those casting rooms, nobody treated me as if I had ever been a part of the franchise. So it's as if Savick never existed, kind of thing. So but for me, there was so much at stake because I very much wanted something new and fresh and fun to bring to the convention experience. You know what I mean? So I had an interest just beyond being able to work and to play another part, and that was to enrich that connection that we have. So
Right,
That's great.
right. Very good,
yeah,
very
it
good.
finally happened.
Yeah. Miles, do you want to ask question 5?
Yeah.
Sure. Um, you got to work with another heavy hitter. Many people knew him before as Reverend Jim and later as Doc Brown. However,
Ah,
you worked with Christopher Lloyd as Commander Krug.
yes.
What was that experience like?
Well, so and this is really a tragedy. I was very shy, believe it or not, and insecure when I was cast, and I was the kind of person that would, if you were the most powerful person at the party, I would duck you. I would duck you like the plague. There's a point here. And so people like Christopher Lloyd, who had been that's a huge hit in Taxi at that point, I hadn't seen the show. I didn't watch Taxi. So I thought, well, God, I'm probably going to make a fool out of myself if I even try to speak with him. So I didn't speak with him except to say hello. Of course, I said hello. I was more concerned with myself and making sure that I was bringing what I needed to bring to the table. But likewise, Miles, I was shy around Gene Roddenberry. You know, like maybe the 4 or 5 times I might have been able to have a little small talk with that man and maybe just say, hey, Mr. Roddenberry. I mean, I know I spoke of my gratitude to him and how honored I was to be a part of the franchise. But beyond that, I did not have a conversation. It was kind of like, that dynamic sometimes when we're in high school and college where you're just a little intimidated by your teachers and you look
Right.
back and you wish you had just realized they're human beings and there was no reason to be afraid and that I wasn't going to reveal what an ignoramus I was actually. That we might have had something in common. And I just regret like you wouldn't believe that I didn't chit chat with Christopher Lloyd, nor did I forge a conversation with Gene Roddenberry, and that was my loss. Now, but to your point, Miles, I did hang out with Walter and George and Jimmy and Nichelle and Majel later at conventions and Dee. They were all very accessible. So there may have been something to this in that he was off somewhere else. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
Bill was not around. He was always off in his trailer, and maybe Christopher was the same way. I don't
Yeah.
remember. I don't remember him hanging out, at the
Right.
table
Right.
because film work. It's hurry up and wait.
Right.
And that's why we all get to know each other so well,
Right.
because we're just sitting around palavering.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, so you go from acting as a
Yeah.
some part, and this is a question that I don't have, that's not on the script here. I'm going off script a little bit.
Going off
So
script.
how did you go from, and yes, you're still acting, but how did you go from there into saying, you know what? I want to sell real estate in upstate
Oh
New York. How,
God.
how, how did you make that? I mean, I imagine you brought some of your acting experience into that because of the way you have to present yourself and present what you're showing, right? But tell me a little bit about that process. And then we do have
Okay,
some
all
acting
right.
questions yet. So,
Well, so I moved back to Cazenovia, which is just down the road from the little village I grew up in outside Utica called New York Mills. I live in a little lake town that's very sweet, 20 minutes southeast of Syracuse. And and I bought an old house, guys. In fact, it speaks loudly of my ignorance of real estate. The home I bought, which was almost a 200-year-old home in the village, so I would always be having to do repairs and always having to pay village taxes. And I bought it when it was buried in the snow, so I couldn't even have a decent inspection at the time
oh
that I
boy.
bought it. So whatever problems materialized after the snow melted, but there I went. Um, and I didn't have an agent, so I bought this house. If I had been my client, I would have said, "You're out of your mind. Do not buy that house." I walked in and I fell in love. And the reason this is important is because I interviewed 4 gentlemen to renovate it, to do some minor renovations. I don't want to give the impression I could afford to do a major renovation, but I needed to bring some things up to the century. And one of the gentlemen that I hired, well, we fell in love, and that's how I got into real estate. If he, I swear, if he had been, a widget maker, I would be a widget salesperson. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So we started a small custom home building company, and I got on board with real estate and what that is. And the way it's interesting, you think because I'm an actress, I might be a good salesperson. I'm actually not. I don't, well, because I wasn't very good at selling myself as an actress. And I feel the same way about a house. I will not sell a house. The house either sells itself or it doesn't. But I will help you know what to pay for it and what the
Okay.
value is. And I'll try to protect you from things I see that are
Right.
troublesome.
Right.
And I'll understand the context of the house that you're buying so that you understand why it's valued the way it's valued and what's sold in the neighborhood and what's the story behind the curtain of that house. And I mean, every house tells a story. But the way I brought my acting into real estate is that my builder partner and we did our first parade home, and I called it the Hepburn. I named it after Audrey and Catherine. And
Right.
the house had like a real sort of Hollywood elegance to it and fine art. And it was just absolutely stunning. We had over $100,000 worth of stickly furniture in it. It was gorgeous. So that was the first house. And then the next house was the Chaplin after Charlie Chaplin. And I had a beautiful movie poster in the house, but the house it was small and it was snazzy and it was clever and it was witty and very much like Charlie Chaplin. And then the last house parade event we did, I called it the Stewart. And all throughout the house were references to It's a Wonderful Life. There was a Christmas tree in the living room and Zuzu's petals up on a bedstand, in one of the girls' bedrooms, and the wobbly newel post, and just all these little homages to It's a Wonderful Life and Jimmy Stewart.
That's awesome.
So that's how I brought. Yeah, I mean, people, I don't know if you've ever shopped for a house, and then when you go into the house and it's named, the Wellesley, and you're like, what? Why? Like
Right.
those names have no relevance. They don't evoke an emotion, but the naming a homes after actors does. It sort of
Right.
almost makes you start to love the house without even realizing it.
Right.
So
Right. Wow. Very good. Very good. Nice. And don't mind me asking, what is the name of your real estate company in case people listening are from New York and say, hey, I need someone to do something for
Oh,
me?
Scott, you're too kind. The company that holds my license, I'm very proud of. It's Hunt Real
Yeah.
Estate,
Okay.
HUNT, family-owned company, multiple generation company, really fine, fine, fine outfit. And we are the biggest office in Central New York. So I'm very proud of all my colleagues and the work that we do. Yeah, thank you.
Nice.
It's
Nice.
terrific.
All right, back to theater. We mentioned
Yes,
it a little bit.
Peter.
Yeah, back to it. We mentioned it earlier that or Dave mentioned this movie, Awaken the Reaper.
Yes.
So tell us a
So,
little bit about it and about your role in that.
well, this very smart, clever, talented young man reaches out to me a couple of years ago with an email, and he explains that he's got a script and he thinks I would be right for one of the parts. And I was so touched. And so I wrote back and I said, well, golly, I said, why don't you send it along? Let me read it. And so I read it, and it's in the horror genre, not really my thing, but I didn't have to kill anyone, and nobody killed me, and I didn't have to scream, or do you know what I mean? Like there wasn't a lot of blood and gore. It was a very psychological thriller type of film, and so I said yes, and I never imagined he would get the money. To be honest, I know how hard it is. I just know how impossible it is. But lo and behold, he got enough money, but he didn't just get enough money. This young man is so clever. His name is Dave Campfield. He cast Lou Gossett Jr. So it ended
Okay.
up being Lou Gossett Jr.'s last film.
Wow.
And he cast Lance Henriksen from
Ooh, I love
Alien
Lance
fame.
Henriksen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. He's a wonderful actor. And so he got these older actors out of their quiet lives
Mhm.
to work with him, and lo and behold, he also hired very talented people to work behind the camera. I was so impressed with the camera people and the cinematographer and this scrappy, hardworking crew, very talented crew, probably working for nickels, and so off I went to Long Island a year ago. I did my part in the film. The locations were uncanny and fascinating. How one home could double as a mountain resort, an office, and an insane asylum. But that's clever filmmaking.
Right.
And lo and behold, I think it's going to be out later this summer,
Okay.
possibly. He's in
Okay.
the editing phase.
Okay,
and it's
all
coming
right.
together. So,
And what was your role in particular in the film?
oh, I play a psychiatric nurse
Okay.
who lives across the street, and that's how she gets pulled into the situation from one of the main characters who it's about a group of friends who go off to camp, and then one by one things happen to them, and they
Of
can't figure
course.
out why. So,
Well, I will be very interested to see how you portray a psychiatric nurse because my mom was a nurse, retired, but one of her stints was being a psychiatric nurse.
oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, I hope I did her. I hope I did her proud.
I will have to watch it with her and let you know.
Yeah.
So we'll
Hey,
see.
I want to make it clear. I'm very excited to be coming to shore leave.
Yeah.
When I first went out to the conventions 40 years ago, they along with the Boston Star Trek Association were probably one of my first three conventions. And I've been there several times over the last 40 years. And they're a classy, fun, welcoming, generous bunch. And I'm pleased to see that some of the fan run conventions have survived.
Right.
Yes.
So many of them
So,
haven't. So many of them
yeah.
haven't.
Yeah, because those are the
Right.
most fun, when you're in the middle of a Klingon peace conference or, something that you don't normally get to do at the big ones. Anyway,
Right.
Absolutely.
No, yeah. So we're really excited that you're coming here a little bit later on this month, that you're coming down to
yes,
shore leave at hang out here in Lancaster County. So,
yes,
and so it's fantastic. And I agree. I think that the fan run conventions, I don't know, there's just a different, and you need the bigger conventions, don't get me wrong, but they
yeah,
just have a different feel, just a different
they
feel.
do.
Yeah.
They
They
do.
do. A little
Yeah.
more relaxed.
I would say so. A little bit more of a friendship based, and it's less. I don't know how to say it. It's just I agree. It's just definitely a friendlier
Well, if
way.
you come to a Star Trek convention alone, you will not leave alone. You will leave with five new friends, and
Right.
I always call out the virgins when they come to my table because I just love to welcome them and make sure they know that we're tickled pink. They finally decided to take a chance and come out and join us and have
Right.
some fun. And yeah, I check in with them, and nobody ever seems to leave disappointed.
Right.
They
No.
can't.
Absolutely.
Is this your first
Absolutely.
shore leave convention, Miss Curtis?
Oh, Miles, no,
No.
no. I did a shore leave, as I was saying a moment ago. I think the shore leave has been around as long as I've been a part of the franchise, and they were one of my first conventions
Yeah,
Okay.
this is
back in
like
the
Whoa.
Wow. Yeah.
1980s.
Hmm.
Well,
okay.
we're hoping that shore leave works just as well in Lancaster as it did in its
Oh,
previous
it
area.
will. It
It
will.
So
will. It will.
we'll roll out the red carpet and just mind the road apples. Um,
From the
uh,
Amish.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
does she know what a road apple is? Maybe she
I don't
doesn't.
know. I don't know. Do you have them in New York?
Yeah, do you have Amish up in New York?
You have Amish in New York.
I think she locked.
froze.
Yeah.
Oh goodness, she heard about the road apples and left.
You did.
You scared her, Chrissy.
Wait
Yeah.
in.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there you are. You're not
There we
frozen
go.
anymore. Good. But
We
Anyway.
thought
Yeah.
Chrissy scared you.
we were just saying that you have Amish in New York, right?
Of course. Yep.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's no great draw saying, "Ooh, going to Lancaster County where the Amish are." You have them in your backyard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wonderful products from their farms.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Amazing, cheeses and meats and so on. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and how sweet to see out, they're on the horse and buggy.
Yeah,
Going,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Go
So
ahead, Chrissy, if you can do question 8.
so are there any other projects you'd like to plug
you're
that
so
we
sweet. I honestly, the convention, I would want to make sure, folks knew it's going to be a lot of fun, and there's going to be a lot of us there, and to come on out and join us. Um, there is something that I can't talk about, but I think by saying I can't talk about it, it might build a little excitement. But there is something later this year that I think the fans will be very, very into, very excited about once it comes together and it's presented. And that should be
Good.
in late August, early September.
Nice.
So keep an eye.
Yeah.
And where can fans who follow you find out about that project when it does go live?
Well, I will probably, Scott, put something out there on Facebook, I suppose. I'm not very good with the other social media, but I am pretty good with Facebook, and it'll be out there. It'll be out there.
Okay,
You'll
it'll be
know.
out there.
You'll know. Yeah.
Yeah. And are you a part of any, are there any charities that you also support that you want to plug or anything that you're involved in that way?
Well, you're so sweet. Not really. I mean, I am now a 7-year board member of Syracuse Stage, but that's a very local organization.
Right,
But I
right.
would say for anybody listening who might be in the vicinity of Central New York, we are the largest floor theater outside Manhattan. And I'm very proud of that, because we have great theaters in our state, in the capital region,
Right.
and Rochester and so on. And Syracuse Stage had in the last 4 years, two productions go to Broadway, How to Dance in
Good.
Ohio and Thoughts of a Colored Man. So I'm really, really proud of the theater. And we are one of the top 25 drama departments at Syracuse University in the country.
Wow.
Good,
So,
good.
yeah.
So they can support that,
they
right?
can.
Or
Yeah,
if not,
that's
support
awesome.
their local theater.
There
Yeah.
you go. Chrissy, right on.
Right on, right
Go
on.
to the theater. Every theater needs us in their seats now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a performance of Midsummer's Night Dream happening locally, and I'm debating about whether or not to go to it this weekend. I love A Midsummer's Night Dream. It was my first Shakespeare play. It's the play I
Oh,
saw when I got over to Dublin, and the British Shakespeare Company was there, and I got to see it.
yeah.
So
So
like
yeah.
it has a special place in my heart. That's my
There you
favorite
go.
Shakespeare play.
All
So
right.
yes, absolutely. Go support your local theaters.
Yeah. Well, we just want to thank you so much for spending,
Oh,
40 minutes here this evening with us and here at the Sci-Fi Diner.
my pleasure, guys. David, Scott, Miles, Chrissy, thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Live long and prosper.
Yeah.
And stay safe.